It's Wednesday, December the 2nd. Normally I do my fishing report out of a boat. I mean, I do have a boat, but it's at the wrap shop. But I did get a chance to get out this weekend, get my boat broke in, and I was out today. Lake level's right at 917 and a half. They've been pulling the heck out of the lake. It came up quite a bit from the rain, and it's going down now. It crested sometime yesterday, and I don't know what they're going to do. They'll probably get it down 917, 916 and a half, and then slow the water back down. But anyways, this weekend when I went out Sunday, I went down by the dam, and it was a perfect day, or at least I thought it was, for shallow ride. You know, I messed around for a couple hours with a crankbait and jerkbait a little bit, and I really struggled, trying to get anything going shallow. So then I went deep, and I found a few schools of fish deep, but it seemed like they were really finicky. And to make a long story short, Sunday I didn't catch a whole lot of fish. I was kind of jumping around from spot to spot. So today I fished out of a buddy's boat that we needed to do some work on his electronics so he could see his bait. We got everything squared away, and we fished from Baxter to Campbell Point. Mainly all we did today was fish deep. We fished shallow, maybe an hour throughout a 5-hour deal, 5-hour day of fishing. But when we got the electronics and stuff set up, we started out on some gravel flats, and when you found the right combination of the bait and the fish, and most of these were on main lake flat gravel points, the fish were really worming up and down on the electronics. You could see them real good, and we caught them on a spoon and a drop shot. And what was kind of funny is most of the time whenever we'd catch one, we'd have doubles. We'd catch 4 or 5 fish, then it would stop. You could still see the fish down there, but we couldn't get them to feed. It seemed like we had to move around, a lot of times even to another spot. It seemed like as soon as we pulled in, what we was doing was we was idling around on some of these places till I seen either a group of fish or bait and fish. Anyways, as soon as we would stop, we'd normally get bit right away. And it seemed to be the same thing, pretty much all day long. 4 or 5 fish in 10 or 15 minutes, and then you could stay another 15 or 30 minutes and not hardly get a bite. So what we learned from that was just keep moving. We ended up catching a lot of fish, caught several good largemouths, and they were Kentuckys and a few smallmouths mixed in with them. But on the baits we've been throwing, and I noticed when I watched my fishing report last week, I told you that you had to fish the ice fishing jig a little different than a spoon, but I neglected to tell you how I've been fishing it. But I've been fishing either a War Eagle spoon, this is the Jewel spoon, the Rapala ice fishing jig, and the Rapala ice fishing jig I've been throwing in 2 different sizes, a 7/8 ounce and a 1/2 ounce. Now, on the ice fishing jig, you kind of fish it a lot like a drop shot. Yeah, here's the 1/2 ounce one right here. And I'm usually throwing this, usually no less than 12 pound, and I'll go up as high as 15 or 17 pound. And it doesn't really matter whether you use fluorocarbon or mono. Now you feel a few more bites on the fluorocarbon, but it will twist up a little bit more than what the mono does. But anyways, you're fishing a lot like a drop shot. Normally I'm finding the fish and dropping it down to them. And this thing, it's really got a lot of action. So when you only lift it up about a foot or so, it'll dive, or not really dive, but as it's dropping, it'll go left, then it'll go right. It's got a lot of action built into the bait. So instead of working a real hard jerking motion like a spoon, you want to just lift it up a foot or 2, drop the rod tip, and let it fall on a free line where it can go side to side. And most of the bites are just like the spoon. They've been biting it so good, or today anyways, that there was no problem feeling it because they were knocking slack in the line or hitting it so hard. The same with the spoon. Now normally the spoon, I'll jerk it 3 or 4 feet. Now these fish that we caught today, some were just off the bottom, but we probably caught more suspended. And the main depth seemed to be 35 to 45 feet. Excuse me, sometimes we were over 50 to 80 foot. And like I say, we started out on the main lake gravel. Then we went into the creeks and started working the deeper 45-degree banks where there was a lot of submerged timber. And what I would do is I would just go into the backs of the creeks, and with my Navionics chip in on my Lowrance, I would set the depth at about 30 foot where the shading would be. So as I was going back into the center of the creeks, I would start about where the bottom depth was 50 and work back into it was 30, and that's usually where we found the fish. Some of them were just a few feet off bottom, some of them were right on the bottom. And it seemed like we could go from creek to creek or even a pocket in the creek as long as it was a deep pocket and repeat the same thing. And then later in the day, after about noontime or so, we went back out on the gravel flats and we couldn't even find any fish to feed for. So then we went back to the deeper cut. So I guess with a little bit I learned today, it seemed like the first few hours of the morning they were on the main lake, on the gravel points. And then after that, we got bit real consistent throughout the day in the creeks themselves, the 45-degree pockets, about 3/4 of the way back in the creeks. And a lot of these places we might have been out in front of some docks. We weren't really keying on the docks, but the fish were, maybe 80 to 100 foot out in front of the docks. And a couple times when the spoon and ice fishing jig bite slowed down, we picked up a drop shot and we could catch a few on it. Now, I've been fishing this drop shot. I think I talked about it a few weeks ago. I've been rigging it up with 10-pound braid, a new braid that Lou's has been working out real good. The good thing about the braid, especially in the cold weather, I don't get any memory or twist in the line. Several different ways you can do it. I'm actually tying about an 8-foot leader with a surgeon's knot on there, then tying on some 8-pound fluoro or mono, then tying my drop shot rig. Another way that you can do it, or you can just stay with the conventional way. For years, all I've ever fished it on a 6-pound line. Like I say, the last year or so I've been playing around with the braid. But like I said, the good thing about the braid, I don't have to change the line on it. I don't get the twist. But if you don't want to tie a surgeon's knot or anything on the braid, this is the way I rig it up on like straight mono or fluorocarbon. I'll put a swivel, help keep the twist out of the line, tie my hook and my weight. But if you're using braid, what you could do instead of tying like a surgeon's knot or a uni knot is tie the swivel right to the braid, then tie about 6 or 7 feet of mono or fluorocarbon on the other side of the leader, then tie your drop shot hook and put your weight on. Like I say, if you don't like to splice that mono or fluorocarbon together, that works real well. Like I say, it's got a lot different feel on the braid. You got a lot more, when you're fishing that deep with the mono or the fluorocarbon, you got a lot more stretch in the line and the bites are a lot lighter. With the braid, you feel the bite a lot better, especially them real light bites. But, we threw a crankbait a little bit throughout the day. Just some spots that looked good. We had good wind, but, water temperatures 56, 57 degrees, which should be about perfect. But like I said, I've been struggling getting a shallow bite going. I've been talking to some guys that are catching quite a few fish on an Alabama rig. And it's about the time of the year to start throwing it. I've been throwing it a little bit over some deeper trees. But I haven't got it figured out yet exactly, where the bite is on the rig. I should get my boat back Friday and get to spend a lot more time on the water next week. But if the guy's going out fishing, the numbers of fish, it's a lot of fun right now, them deep fish. And, like I say, it's not all Kentuckies. We had probably half the fish we caught today were keepers. And we had, several largemouth in the 3-pound range. So it's a lot of fun. You catch a lot of fish. Normally, you look for the birds. Today we didn't see any gulls or loons. But the fish were kind of in the same areas where I had been seeing the gulls and the loons. And it's a pattern that'll work from one end of the lake to the next. You just got to spend a little bit of time idling around, keeping an eye on your electronics, trying to find the bait or the fish. So, till next week, good luck, good fishing.